Hi, it's Gary Hewitt from Thought Knocks, and today I'm going to try and talk about bubbles. And what I'm talking about specifically is living inside a reality distortion bubble. Now, there may be, in fact, being inside a reality distortion bubble is the only way that you can live. I don't want to go down this rabbit hole too deep. I have in altered states of consciousness, and I did it through good old-fashioned meditation, not any stimulants or whatever, managed to see things from a completely different perspective. So I don't talk about that too much because that's internal stuff. It's all subjective as opposed to objective. And your internal reality is completely different and as unexplainable to me as my internal reality is to you. Nonetheless, I want to try to talk about this concept of a bubble because there are bubbles within bubbles, if you will. And what I'm more specifically talking about is in the case of cults. And cults can exist in corporate disguise. They can exist in politics. They can exist they do exist in the religious realm. And what they do is they create logic puzzles. Now they may create them emotionally, but nonetheless they create these logic puzzles that make it impossible to see reality as reality. They make you see reality as something else. And when you start seeing reality as something else, you first of all, you start acting differently because you're not basing your actions on the real inputs. You're basing them on your filtered inputs based on this reality distortion bubble. So that's kind of the first problem. The second problem is if the distortion bubble is created really well, and I was in one early in life, so I know what a well-crafted one is like, and I know what it's like being inside of one, and I know how difficult it is to get outside of it. The challenge is you can't see that you're in the reality distortion bubble. And so any attempt to talk somebody out of their reality distortion bubble results in instant pushback because part of that, whoever or whatever organization created that bubble has invested a lot of time, energy, and effort into building all of the arguments and the logic puzzles, the logic traps that keep you in that bubble. So anybody trying to help you get out of that bubble is going to meet a tremendous amount of resistance, but you don't see it as resisting them. You see it as defending reality. And for all intents and purposes, that's exactly what you're doing because that reality distortion bubble creates your reality. So of course you're going to defend it, and you're going to wonder, why can't they see things the way you do? Why are they picking on me? Because it doesn't make sense. So this is where critical thinking comes in, and like I say, the way I worked my way out of my childhood reality distortions was, if this is true, then that. If this is true, then that. And I kept running through every if this that I could find, and I realized, well, wait a minute. There's one that doesn't line up. And if I have to change that one, then I have to sort of back up the train and change a whole bunch of others. And eventually I got to a point where I managed to, if this is true, then this, and if this is true, then this, and they all started to align and make a lot more sense. And that's when the reality distortion bubble finally started to fall apart. And when I could see it from the other side, it was like, wow, did not expect that. So if you wonder, how could people think certain things? How could people react certain ways? How could people be certain ways? Chances are they're in somebody else's reality distortion bubble, and what they're doing is perfectly normal for them, no matter how it appears to you. And you, interestingly enough, you are going to appear the one to be distorted and not understanding reality from their point of view. So that's the beauty, that's the challenge, that's the ugliness of these reality distortion fields, these reality distortion bubbles that have been very well crafted by quite a few people over millennia in order to keep you aligned to somebody else's purpose, keep you running somebody else's software, if you will, keep you running somebody else's agenda. So I think there's a lot of people asking a lot of why questions as of late. So that's just my 2 cents on explaining how people react or believe certain things when, in your view, that couldn't possibly be true. So just understand that they are probably in one of those reality distortion bubbles, thinking that you're the one with the lack of understanding of reality. So that makes for a very interesting world at times, very challenging one. But when you start seeing that, especially, the main question, really the only question you can ask, and of course this is Thought Knocks, so we want you to ask questions. The only question you can really ask yourself is, am I in a reality distortion field? And what might that look like if I could break out of it? So that's my 2 cents for today. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you on the next video.